Everyone, welcome to the regular meeting of the Madera City Council. Today is Wednesday the 2nd, 2020. It's 6 p.m. This meeting will be conducted pursuant to the provisions of the Governor's Executive Order, which suspends certain requirements of the Ralph M. Brown Act. The City Council meeting will be live streamed on the city's website. Members of the public may participate in the meeting remotely through an electronic media via phone by dialing 669-900-6833, enter ID 949-5782-1837, followed by or by phone by *9 on your phone to speak. Comments will also be accepted via email at citycouncilpublicmeeting@madera.gov or by regular mail at 205 West 4th Street, Madera, California, 93637. Alicia, will you call the meeting to, that was your calling the meeting to order. Alicia, will you please call roll call?
Thank you. Mayor Magellan? Absent. Mayor Pro Tem Garcia?
Present.
Councilmember Gallegos?
Here.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
He's there somewhere.
Councilmember Montes?
Here.
Councilmember Robinson? And
He's there
Councilmember Holly?
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Would you please rise for the invocation by Reverend Sammy Neely, Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church.
Let us bow our heads. Father God, we come before you today, Father, thanking you for this opportunity to once again hold this business of this great city. Father, as we go past this week of Thanksgiving, Father, we give you thanks for once again allowing us this opportunity, Father, to be able to be together, but yet not be together. So we ask that you look upon our city, look upon the business to be discussed, and look upon each and every member, keep them protected from this horrible pandemic. And if it be thy will, Father, protect our city. We give you all the praise, the honor, and the glory. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Would you please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Brother Councilmember Donald Hawley.
Ready, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which
it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We will now move on to approval of the agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda or corrections?
Mr. Mayor, if there is no corrections, I move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved by Councilmember Jose Rodriguez and seconded by Cecilia Foley Gallegos. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion is approved unanimously. I will now move on to public comment. The first 15 minutes of the meeting are reserved for members of the public to address the council on items which are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. Speakers will be asked but are not required to identify themselves and state the subject of their comments. If the subject is in an item on the agenda, the mayor has the option of asking the speaker to hold the comment until that item is called. Comments on items listed as the public hearing on the agenda should be held until the hearing is opened. the council is prohibited by law from taking any action on matters discussed that are not on the agenda, and no adverse conclusion should be drawn if the council does not respond to public comment at this time. Alicia, do we have any members of the public wishing to speak under public comment?
No public comment at this moment.
Thank you. I will now close public comment. And seeing we have no written communications, we'll move on to the first presentation of the Department of Public Health update on COVID-19, report by Madera County Public Health Department. Are you here, Sarah? Thank you. Let me see.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. As you probably have seen in the news, we are surging right now. Our hospitals, as of today, across Madera and Fresno County, are all exceeding their capacity for their ICUs. It's very concerning, and we're seeing this surge throughout the state of California, like we've seen in other areas of the country. The real limiting factor for California hospitals at this point is really around staffing. That was our main limiting factor in our last surge, but it's different now for a couple reasons. The first is that we've hit this surge quickly. It's escalating very fast. We right now, as a state, already have more cases in the hospital as we did in the at the peak of the surge last time. So, and we're still on the upward trajectory. So we're looking at a lot more hospitalizations, a lot more people needing critical care for COVID moving into the next few months. And we don't know where the top of this surge, what it looks like. It really is dependent on a lot of factors based on people's behavior, really around Thanksgiving. We're looking at that to see if there are cases that come as a result of that, and whether or not people are taking the real kind of cautions that public health and hospitals are giving to the community in terms of changing their overall behavior patterns. The second reason that staffing is a real concern is we're a provider shortage area anyway. And so we always deal with a shortage of critical providers. Typically it's in specialties, but in this case, it's ICU nurses and other nursing staff. That's where our real shortage is. In the last surge, we were able to draw from traveling nurses from other parts of the country. In this surge, the other parts of the country are surging ahead of us, and far more significantly across a broad number of states, as opposed to kind of the surges we saw last time that were in certain areas. So we do not have the same reservoir to draw from other areas. The third factor in terms of nursing shortages relates to the fact that we so recently had a surge. It may feel like a while ago, but for nursing staff and hospital staff that worked that surge, they haven't really had the opportunity to truly get breaks and recover, because there was only really a month in between where cases truly resolved and heading back into another surge. So we have our ongoing staff at a place of exhaustion and also wanting to take a break, and we're going into the holidays and they want to celebrate the holidays as well, right? So that it's just a really tough time for hospitals with regards to how to staff these beds. We have the ability to expand the number of beds. I'm speaking for hospital systems throughout the Central Valley, but specifically in Madera and Fresno counties, as those hospitals have been working very closely together. They did in the first surge. They've been strategizing about how to handle things and patient movement in this surge. So Fresno and Madera hospitals are working very closely together. Just in terms of the numbers, our tier assignment is coming more frequently. So it used to be that we would get a tier assignment on a Tuesday. Now we're getting a tier assignment 2 days a week. But yesterday, the tier data is our case rate is now 21.7. Remember, to get out of purple, it has to be below 7. So we are now 3 times the amount of what it would take to actually move out of purple. Our positivity rate is 9.7%. We do see a lot more activity with regards to testing, and we're very happy to see that lots of people are testing. We expect that that's because we have a lot more cases and there are a lot more individuals that are contacts. And so that is really filling up our testing sites. We do have additional testing sites that have rolled out this week. Last we were together, I told you the state was going to be providing us with more test sites, and we now have that. The registration is through the exact same URL for both the fairground site and the new state testing sites. So if people need a test, we encourage you to go to www.maderacounty.com/COVID-19 testing. That's where you're going to be able to find the URL that will prompt you to register, and you can select which location and which day you'd like to test. In the coming weeks, we're going to see those test sites. Right now, it's predominantly the fairgrounds, which has not changed. It's exactly the same days, times, location. We also have on Tuesdays testing happening at Courthouse Park. And for this week, the rest of the test dates of the additional days are at the Department of Public Health. As we move forward into coming weeks, we're going to be identifying locations. We'll have an agreement process that's first going to our board on Tuesday, and then we will identify additional locations that will largely be in the city of Madera and very close surrounding areas, as that's where we have seen the greatest need for testing. We have a test site that's through a separate provider in Chowchilla. And we have our mobile test team that's still going to be available to be deployed to large businesses, to specific areas that may have difficulty traveling to other test sites, and to provide a testing day in our mountain community of Oakhurst. So there's a lot of opportunity for testing. We expect that those testing opportunities will fill up quite quickly, especially as we continue to surge. So we always encourage people to test. It's a great idea to test. And we're going to continue to promote the message that it's important and good to test. At the same time, as we get to very limited testing, we are likely to ask people to defer those appointments to people who have symptoms. And it's not that it's bad to test at any other time. So when we come out of the surge, then we will continue to promote testing to everyone. At the same time, we just need to recognize that our resources are limited, they're not infinite, and we may need to communicate some priorities. So we'll ask you to watch for that as well. In terms of transmission, there are some things that we've learned. Give me just 1 second as I get through this document to the right page. So it's not cooperating. Just a second here. The first thing that I do want to just get you familiar with is a term called R effective. It's a term that we use in terms of data. And the easiest way to understand it is it's basically how quickly and to how many people are we spreading COVID? So are we on the increase or are we on the decrease? What does it look like? The easiest way to understand it is like we know that when a couple has 2 kids, then for our population, it stays the same. They've replaced themselves, right? So it's a 1-to-1 ratio. The R effective, when the R effective is 1, then we're stable. When we were basically bumping back and forth between red and purple data, but it was pretty flat, that was when we were at 1 for our R effective. Every single case was giving it to one person. And we look at averages to determine the R effective, of course. Individual cases vary greatly. It's just what that average is. So our R effective right now in Madera County is 1.26. That's why we're continuing to increase. That is actually a larger R effective than our neighboring counties. And so we really need to appeal to our community to work together to reduce that rate of transmission. We're all familiar with how to do that. And so we need to stay home as much as possible, not participate in gatherings with people outside of our household. We're really at a place that if you have a stable kind of social bubble of a couple households that see each other regularly, it's kind of like having a larger household. That's something that is okay. It's not the best, but it's okay. You know, the less contact we have, the better. Of course, distancing, masking, and sanitizing as much as possible. And the really important thing in the middle of a surge is if anyone has any COVID symptoms, stay home and don't expose others. So we encourage people to visit Valley COVID Help, HELP.com, to learn about COVID symptoms, to also learn about if they've been exposed, and then what to do if they do have symptoms or they have been exposed. What we've learned about exposure is that, just a second. In our case investigations, we have learned that out of all of the cases, 57% reported having been in contact with someone who tested positive. So that's a known source of transmission. 62% of those people said that it was from a household contact. So still people are getting it from their family members and household members. About 10% admitted going to a community event where they believe they were exposed. It's really hard to know we never know for 100% certain who exactly exposed them unless they only were ever around their spouse or something like that. It's very uncommon for us to know exactly who they got it from. About 16% reported they had contact in a workplace setting. So we say admitted to going to a community event because there are still a lot of individuals in our case investigations that do not provide a lot of the information. So it's impossible to say for 100% certainty exactly where everyone is catching this, because the only way we find that out in public health is that people share that information with us. And we definitely want to encourage people to participate in the case investigation process. The idea is not to be punitive. It's for us to have the best information to know how do we help our community work together to protect our healthcare staff, to protect our healthcare system, and to get us out of this surge and moving back in the right direction to where we can have more movement safely. We did have 8% that admitted to attending a large private gathering. So other than a community event, so large private gatherings are still a concern. 7% reported attending a large gathering and said that it was a religious gathering. 48% said it was a friend and family gathering, which during the holidays, we certainly expect that more people will want to gather socially because we always do it this time of year, and it's wonderful and it fills us with joy, and we understand that. What we're asking is that people please think through the ramifications of what that looks like. What we know is that when our hospital system and our healthcare system is overwhelmed, it's not just the patients who have COVID that are impacted by our inability to provide the best level care that we want to. I'm not a hospital, but the healthcare system. And it affects other people as well that might need critical care due to another illness, due to accidents. There are lots of reasons why people need acute hospital care. And for the sake of also our healthcare workers at this difficult season, they are members of our community as well. So I'll stop there, and I'm happy to answer any questions that people have.
Thank you, Sarah. Are there any other of our colleagues that have a question for Ms. Moss? Yes, Mr. Lopez.
Councilmember Robinson, you're muted.
Councilmember Robinson, you're muted. Can you unmute?
All right, you hear me now? All right.
Good.
Or how long will the COVID last? 2 years? That's one of my questions.
So you're wanting to know when will we not have COVID around anymore?
Yes, I mean, you know, like regular flu, they last one, you know, it's a flu season. And you're saying COVID, I wanted to know, since COVID is in the same family, influenza, will it last 2 years or whatever, or keep going on and on and on?
So influenza is actually in a different family of viruses. This is a coronavirus, and there are lots of coronaviruses. So it is in a different family. That does make it difficult for us to make predictions like that. We're very hopeful about vaccination, but there's a lot of unknowns. We don't know how long the vaccination will have an impact. We also don't know how quickly COVID may mutate the way that influenza virus does. There's a lot of unknowns. And we're doing the very best we can to certainly kick it to the curb and have something that's far more manageable, and so we can return back to a normal life.
Another question is, will the vaccine be mandatory for everyone to take?
No. So vaccinations at this point have never been mandated by law. The only exception to that is for children and attending school. There has not been an indication at this time that a COVID vaccination would be required as a school immunization. That has not been stated, but there is precedence for certain immunizations being required for public school participation. The vaccine will be voluntary.
Because I know that, you know, some country like Australia, Qantas airline, they're requiring travelers to have proof of being vaccinated or they will not be permitted on the plane. And I believe next, businesses and schools will follow the same suit.
Well, that's something that we can't predict. Those are certainly market-driven forces. And we know that other countries are going to have different policies than the United States. And I can't predict the future for the United States either. I can just tell you that currently there is not conversation about mandating the vaccine.
And what about hospital with nurses and doctors? What if a nurse say, "Oh, I don't want to have the vaccine injected in me"?
We are right now preparing for what is called phase 1A of vaccine distribution that targets healthcare workers. And we are not having conversations about mandatory vaccination of healthcare workers at this time, and they are the first group of people that will be vaccinated.
So are you saying that this vaccine is 100% effective and safe?
What I can tell you is that in the vaccine trials, it was shown to be safe. And it was 95% effective. That's the Kaiser vaccine. The Moderna vaccine is coming a little bit later. It's about a month behind. It still has, I believe, yet one layer of approval that's yet required. That one is also showing 95% effectiveness. And so as each vaccine comes along, it's going to have different level of effectiveness based on the studies, the trials that happen. And they are going through a rigorous process to show that they are safe and will be continually evaluated for their safety.
What about the people that had COVID already and got over it? Will they have to be retested and given the vaccine also?
So at this time, we don't have a complete picture as to if a person has COVID and they develop antibodies. how long those antibodies stay in their system. There are some viruses that antibodies don't stay for forever. It doesn't give you lifetime immunity. We don't know the answers to that because we don't have long enough with the virus to have enough data to know that for certain. We would recommend that people get vaccinated even if they have already had COVID.
It's like a lifelong vaccine every year.
Thank you. I believe that Councilmember Rodriguez has a question.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Garcia. Sarah, so in talking about vaccinations, does the county health department have a plan as how they would distribute these vaccines when readily available? I'm assuming that your healthcare workers would be priority. Is that something that you guys have underway now, a particular plan when these vaccines do come into play?
So the phases of who is prioritized are established by the state and first by the feds and then by the state. So at the local level, we are allocated based on how many people we have in that category when that phase comes. So right now, phase 1A is only healthcare workers. We are, this week, we believe, going to be receiving the number of how many vaccinations we are going to receive from Madera County. It's based on an assessment of how many healthcare workers are employed in our county because it's being driven by where the person is employed, not their place of residency, because it's going to be administered at their place of work. So that's 1A. The next round looks like it's going to be going to critical infrastructure. So things like law enforcement, essential workers, as well as vulnerable population. So the specifics of how that rolls out are yet to be determined.
Sarah, I believe you froze. Sarah?
We can give her
I
a
think we
moment.
might have lost her, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Well, I want to thank Sarah because it's always good information. Does anyone else have any questions? I don't see any raised hands. If not, then what we'll do is we'll move on. If she can come back, then we'll absolutely allow her to finish her presentation. Having said that, I just want to remind everyone to take precautions and take care of their family members and their loved ones by continuing to wear a mask and continuing to do as much as possible to practice social distancing in order to prevent illness to our first responders. So please help us do that and we'll get through this. Moving on, let's see. We have any introductions, workshop. Moving on to the consent calendar. Matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, a member of the public or a member of the council may request an item be removed from the consent calendar and it will be considered separately. Are there any comments, members of the council wanting to either adjust or make corrections to the consent calendar? Is there any members of the public wishing to address the consent calendar? If not, I'll bring it back to the council for action.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second.
Is that you, Steve? Councilmember
Yeah.
Montes? Thank you. Motion by Councilmember Robinson and seconded by Councilmember Steve Montes to approve the consent calendar. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion is approved. Sarah, I want to recognize you again. If you wanted to finish up your presentation, please do so.
So I don't know where I cut out. I apologize. My phone had frozen. Basically, we are. It's a very complicated process for us to plan for the vaccine. It includes it's a tricky vaccine, both the Pfizer and the Moderna. It has to be frozen. It has to be thawed. It's 2 doses. We have to track those, how to store it, finding the staff to be able to administer all the vaccines. So we are working all of those details out through the process of rolling it out to healthcare workers. And then in our planning, we will turn to prioritization of other populations and how we are going to mobilize to do that. It will look probably very similar to H1N1, which many of you might remember. And we are also, we do clinics all the time for flu shots. It's probably going to look very similar to that. And we'll just have to identify what those priority groups are and kind of work our way through as vaccine becomes available and allocated.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I want to just finish off one other question. Thank you, Sarah, for addressing that. So knowing that most of California is in the purple tier and pretty much states that the non-essential indoor businesses should be closed, does that differ from counties on the levels of a practice that they use for businesses? Meaning, does Madera have a different set of standards versus Fresno, Merced, or any other county that's within the same purple tier system?
No, there is not a different standard. There are different methods for enforcement and frankly, various difficulties with compliance. And so you'll probably see different practices out there, but that doesn't mean that the rules are any different. It means that some entities are not following in a compliant way with the guidelines.
So just to elaborate and expand on that, I'll bring you an example. So when it comes to dining in, and I bring this because I get a lot of these questions asked, and I said I would ask, is would you consider these to be essential businesses?
So we are not operating from a terminology or classification of essential versus non-essential. We are talking about now, and actually we didn't like that terminology from the state from the beginning, because if you're the business owner, then your business is essential to your family and paying your bills. So we didn't subscribe to that. It really is high risk and low risk. And so what we have advocated to the state is that if they do decide anything that's more restrictive than the purple tier stuff, which is a conversation that's happening right now, the governor alluded to it, that they really look at kind of the capacity and lowering the risk, as opposed to trying to identify these are essential workers versus others who aren't essential workers, and essential businesses versus non-essential. That was not productive.
So I guess, the question that I'm having is, do practices differ, again, from businesses? And I'm referring specifically to restaurants in Fresno and Madera, because I know that in some areas they do allow for dine-ins with proper methods, very strict methods. But is that the same case here in Madera? And if not, what methods can people take? I mean, at this time, I wouldn't advise anything like that, but I want to hear directly from our public health director, or in this case, are we differing from Fresno?
The rules for purple are the same for Fresno and Madera or any other county. And so the guidances follow, and you can find what those guidances are and what the rules are at the Blueprint for a Healthy Economy. So the rules are the same. I think what you're asking about is compliance. And I know that there are restaurants, because we receive complaints, that are doing indoor dining against guidance in the purple tier. And so what we have done is that we have communicated, we reach out to every business every time we receive a complaint, and we inform them of what the rules are and what the requirements are. Where there is opportunity for other kinds of enforcement, that's something that we talk about in collaboration with our law enforcement and code enforcement partners with the city and with the county, to really talk about what other tools are available to us. For instance, does a business have an alcohol and beverage license? ABC is interested in visiting those businesses that are not compliant, and they have authority that we don't have in our toolbox. There are also OSHA standards that were released yesterday, and we are getting clarifications about those OSHA standards. Our goal is really, we want businesses to be able to operate and able to operate safely. And so when we reach out to them, we give them education about what they can do to operate safely. Right now, indoor dining is not safe. It's people in close proximity without masks on indoors. That's high risk. And so what we'd like to do is see restaurants do outdoor dining with heaters, things like that. And there is CARES funding through EDC to be able to, take care of those expenses, to be able to make transitions. And that's what we'd like to see. We don't want businesses to get in trouble with ABC or with OSHA or anything else. What we'd like to do is have low risk things so that we can bring our case rate down.
Thank you, Sarah. I won't take more of your time. I just sometimes find it hard to to wrap my head around the fact that indoor dining spaced out in a certain building versus very close proximity outside. How that does not spread when you're not wearing masks outside. It just, to me, it just doesn't make sense that we're allowing businesses to close because they're trying to spread their customers in a more than 6 feet, but yet when you go outside in these canopies, you're like within 3 to 4 feet and you have no masks. So I guess that for me it's hard to wrap my head around, and sometimes I want to ask if certain counties have different standards of how they go about being compliant. And I know that this is causing a big effect in a lot of the small businesses around our town and around the state, and I think around the nation. So, I think we just want them to hear directly what's the advice coming directly, not only from the state, but also from our public health director. So thank you. Appreciate the information, and thanks again for your time.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for that report.
You're welcome.
We will now move on to the item C, C1, under public hearings, the 2019-2020 Community Development Block Grant, CDBG Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, CAPER, and the Financial Summary Report. I believe that's by Yvette. Is that correct?
Yes. Are we past the consent calendar, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Okay. I apologize. I was freezing in and out. Okay.
Yeah, and it's a learning process, so bear with me if I'm not clear.
Okay. Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Can you see my full screen?
No, we cannot, Yvette.
Much better?
We can see your, yes, please.
Very good. Okay, well, good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I bring before you an item that I bring every year. This is a requirement by one of our funding agencies, and we are required to submit it before the end of this calendar year. So what it is, it's the annual consolidated performance and evaluation report known as the CAPER. So what is the CAPER? The CAPER is a HUD requirement, as I mentioned, for community development block grant funding agencies. The CAPER reflects the city's performance of its annual CDBG action plan. So basically, it's an evaluatory tool that HUD uses to evaluate performance of the last fiscal year, and it requires citizen participation. Staff did publish a public hearing notice inviting written comments and inviting the public to this public hearing. Typically, we post a draft of the CAPER throughout the city at various facilities. We aren't required to do that, but we are required to make it available to the public. This year, that was more limited than in other years. We did have it on the website, and to my understanding, nobody submitted a written comment to date. So, however, we have tonight's hearing to encourage any public participation. Any comments that are made will be incorporated into the draft of the CAPER before it is finalized and submitted to HUD. HUD provides with data regarding the individuals served, activities performed, and what outcomes were achieved. That's the type of data that we are submitting to HUD. So an overview of the financial standing for the city. We have a balance on the books of $1,896,985, and this is cumulative since the 2014-2015 allocation year. And in the last fiscal year, 2019-2020, the city drew down $648,599 through June 30th, 2020. This gives you a breakdown on table 1 of the amounts that we have on the books per those allocation years. I want to share with you some of the major accomplishments during this past fiscal year. One of them being the work done by City of Madera Parks Department. The Parks Department, with the use of CDBG funds, supported the Park Suite of Senior and Meals and on Wheels program, serving 460 individuals unduplicated, and over 17,000 duplicated meals provided. That means that some of those 460 folks were repeating receipt of the meals, so that's why we get that large figure. Another accomplishment is the completion of ADA compliant sidewalks adjacent to George Washington Elementary School. And let me just say that that was implemented by the engineering department. And other major accomplishments include assisting 15 families with home repair needs. As you can see on the pictures, this includes roof repairs as well as accessibility. It is dependent upon what the greatest needs are of the individuals that are applying for these repairs. And these projects were completed by Habitat for Humanity. Other accomplishments is the completion of ADA improvements to the Pan Am Center, Burgon Senior Center, and Centennial Park. And also in the category of public services, some of the accomplishments were increasing access to scholarship for higher education to 31 youth, and 29 of the youth were low or moderate income, or from low or moderate income families. And this was a project conducted by Madera Coalition for Community Justice. Again, every year, managing the Community Development Block Grant Program doesn't come without challenges. Some of the challenges experienced this fiscal year was having some lag time and not having an authorized staff to approve drawdowns from the beginning of the year, for the beginning of the year CDBG expenses. There was unexpected turnover within the finance department. So every time that we have to find new staffing to be authorized by HUD to draw down, it does take some time. So there is some lag time. We are addressing this challenge by ensuring that we find more staffing within our departments that are authorized to do these drawdowns. The capital projects also were slowed down due to some of the programmatic staffing turnover, and that's mainly within the city. And then, as we all know, COVID-19, the pandemic did result in some temporary shutdowns of some of the public service programs and some of the needs. So some of the agencies were able to amend their service activities and implement something similar, but nevertheless, there was a little bit of lag time with that as well. So what HUD is evaluating is they do consider cities' challenges in addressing consolidated plan priorities. That is part of the narrative, as you might been able to see on the drafted caper. Their evaluation of the city's caper is based on positive performance outcomes, and they are evaluating city's timeliness based on reimbursements for CDBG expenses. And they evaluate submittal of the action plans and capers as required on time. So they are evaluating our timely submittal of these annual reports. So at this point, we are offering an opportunity for the public to comment on our drafted caper. We did not receive comments during the 15-day review and comment period, which ended December 1st. And we are asking council to adopt a resolution to approve for the submittal of the 2019-2020 caper and financial summary report. At this point, I would like to turn it over to answer any questions or wait until we conduct the public hearing.
Do any of my colleagues have any questions for Ms. Herrera? I don't see any. Alicia, are there any comments or written communications from any member of the public up to this point for public comment?
Unreceived. No.
Then we will close this item and bring it back for our council action.
So moved to approve C1 as presented.
Second.
I didn't hear that second.
Second.
Motion to approve C1 has been made by Councilwoman Cici Gallegos Foley, second by Council Member Jose Rodriguez. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much for that report, Ms. Herrera.
Thank you.
Moving on to item D2, resolution declaring the results of the 2020 general election, oaths of office, and annual reorganization. I think I will pass that on to
Mayor-elect, if I may, I think we need to go over item D1.
Yes, absolutely. I was going to pass it on to you.
Item D1 is the acceptance of a grant award for the Kaiser Foundation.
Oh, that's correct. My apologies. I was getting ahead of myself. My apologies again. So we will do item D1, acceptance. Wait, hold on a second. Where are we at? Yes, the Kaiser. Yes. Item D1, acceptance of a grant award from the Kaiser Foundation, Hospitals Northern California Community Benefit Program. And then now I can pass it on to you, Alicia. Thank you very much.
That's John Scarborough's report.
Yeah, that'll actually come to me. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. If you don't mind, I'll share my screen. Can you see that?
Yes.
Very good. So we have a little bit of a feel-good moment tonight. Council will have the opportunity to consider and potentially accept a grant award from the Kaiser Foundation, from the Kaiser Foundation's Hospitals Northern California Community Benefit Program. So in January of this year, staff submitted a grant application to the Kaiser Foundation hospitals for the Northern California Community Benefit Program, requesting $80,000 to fund a capital improvement project. The City Parks and Community Services Department envisioned using the funds to install exercise equipment, commonly known as par course equipment, along the Vern McCullough River Trail and the walking trail at Lyons County Country Park. Due to the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic in early March, the Kaiser Foundation ceased the project application review process, stating that they would revisit the process in the future. And the future is now, which is good. Excuse me. I'm trying to move this thing. The Kaiser Foundation reopened the application process in September of this year for updates and resubmittal. Staff completed the application updates for the Trail Par Course project and submitted it on September 16, 2020. The Trail Par Course project consists of the addition of 5 exercise stations along the Vern McCullough Trail between Lake Street and Sharon Avenue, and 8 exercise stations along the pedestrian walking trail in Lyons County Country Park. The stations will be located equal distance apart in excavated pits, backfilled with engineered wood fiber to protect users from injury in case of a fall. And additionally, irrigation systems will be modified and signage will be installed to advise participants on appropriate use. These are some examples of possible equipment. What we've tried to do is to have an equal mix of both motion capable equipment, which are the 2 apparatuses on either side of the slide, and then fixed equipment, which is essentially like a pull-up bar, which is the picture in the middle of the slide. This is one of the project sites. This is the Vern McCullough River Trail. This is just west of Lake Street between Lake and D. As you can see, there's ample grass to the north of the trail with big shade trees that will provide shade over the exercise equipment. This is the walking trail in Lyons County Country Park. This trail is about a mile long. Once again, there's ample opportunity to provide the 8 stations along this walking trail. We think it'll be a really good addition to the park overall. The total budget for the Trail Park Course project is approximately $115,000. This includes the equipment, installation, materials for opening events, staff time for construction oversight, event support, and grant management. $80,000 was requested and awarded from the Kaiser Foundation. It's interesting to note that this is the maximum award. We did apply for the maximum amount of grant and we were awarded that. These funds will be spent primarily on equipment and installation. The remaining $35,000 will be expended from staff salaries and benefits. Essentially what that means is that the $35,000 is not an additional cost to the city. It's essentially an in-kind match. So anytime that city staff spend on the project through the design, we will likely participate in some of the construction, that sort of thing. We will log our time, and then that time will be credited against the grant, against the overall $35,000. And again, will be considered in-kind match. So it's not an additional cost. It's something that we will do anyways. Kaiser just gives us credit for it. Upon completion of the project, the Parks and Community Services Department will host 2 Walk the Trail Day events in 2021, 1 at each location. The Trail Day events will be designed to raise awareness of the new trail amenities, encourage regular exercise, and promote healthy eating and active living. And we're hopeful that this Trail Day will become an annual event put on by the Parks and Community Services Department in years to come. Staff recommends City Council adopt the resolutions. The first, to accept the grant award in the amount of $80,000. The second will amend the city's fiscal year 2021 budget for acceptance of the grant revenue in the amount of $80,000. I'm available to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Scarborough regarding this grant award from my colleagues?
Yes, Mayor Garcia, thank you. I did want to say, John, thank you to you and your staff for applying for this grant. You know, it's good to hear that we're getting some of the station, some of these equipments and stationed at our parks. It's been a long time that we've continued to fight to enhance our parks and have amenities so that people continue to promote good health. And there's nothing like having these stations in these parks to help with that. So again, I just want to commend you and your staff for looking out for those grants, and continue to look out for grants, because there's a lot more work that's needed in these parks. You know, I'm not going to take away the big thing here in this with this grant and the stations that are being placed at these parks, but certainly there's more enhancements that can take place in these parks, and I greatly appreciate your support on that. So thank you. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure if we can open this up to the public, but I'll be willing to make the motion once we do.
Absolutely. Are there any more questions from Mr. Scarborough here? Alicia, is there any comments from the public in written form or?
No, Mayor, none received.
Mayor, I was going to make a suggestion, and maybe we can see if Councilmember Rodriguez go test out some of the equipment once it's all, make sure it's up to par. I know he's been championing for some of this stuff for a while.
So, certainly, Councilmember Montes, and I'd like for you to participate as well. You know, in this way we can both do it. So yeah, for sure. It'd be great for all of us to take that walk and again, promote healthy living in our park. So thank you.
We can do that.
Challenge to me. So Alicia, again, I just want to make sure, do we have any public comment at this time?
No, we do not. None received.
Okay. Any more questions from the council? If not, then I'll bring it back for action by the council to for item D1, acceptance of a grant award.
Make a motion to accept and pass D1.
Second.
It's been motioned to accept to pass item D1 by Mr. Robinson and seconded by Mr. Rodriguez. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Mr. Scarborough, thank you very much for that, all the work that you're doing there, and also for working on this grant and get something beneficial to the residents of Madera.
Thank you, Mayor.
Now, Alicia, I believe we can move on to D2. This is a resolution declaring the results of the 2020 general election, oaths of office, and annual reorganization.
Thank you, Mayor. On November 3rd, 2020, a consolidated general municipal election was held for 4 offices of members of City Council, Mayor at Large, and Council Districts 2, 4, 6, and approval of Measure R, the cannabis business tax measure. The Madera County Clerk has issued the certified election results that I will now read and request that Council adopt the resolution declaring the results of the election. For Mayor's seat, we had Steve Salter with 3,179 votes. We had Andrew Medellin with 5,618 votes, and Santos Garcia with 6,699 votes. And Santos was elected for the mayor's seat. In District 2, we had Jorge Mendoza with 694 votes, DJ Becker, 1,114 votes, and Jose Rodriguez with 1,771 votes, and he was elected for the District 2 seat. For District 4, we had Anita Evans with 1,139 votes, and Derek Robinson with 383 votes, and Anita Evans was elected for the District 4 seat. And for District 6, we have Artemio Villegas with 1,520 votes and Donald Hawley with 742 votes, with Artemio Villegas being elected to District 6 seat. And for the measure results, on Measure R, there were 10,417 yes votes, 5,094 votes, and the measure passes. So now the request is for council to adopt the resolution declaring the results of the election.
Hilda, because the current, well, I want to make sure that we're doing this correctly as far as this part here. So do you have anything that you'd like to add? You're muted.
Your city clerk has covered everything. The resolution before you includes everything that is required by law to be included in the resolution regarding the election. And so unless there's, you can call for public comment and comments from the council, and then you can proceed to vote on the resolution as recommended.
Thank you very much. Do we have any public comment from the comments from the public at this time?
I have not received anything via email, Mayor Garcia.
Thank you very much. Seeing none, then I will bring it back to council for action.
And Mr. Mayor, just for clarification, we're only approving items individually because we still have items 2, 3, and 4, correct? So
correct.
I will move to approve item D21.
Second.
It has been made motion to approve item D1 by Councilmember Rodriguez and seconded by Councilmember Montes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes.
Mayor-elect Garcia, if I can have just a minute to say thank you to Councilman Robinson and Councilman Hawley for all your years of service. You will truly be missed, and this will not be the last time we'll be seeing you. Thank you again.
You're welcome.
Absolutely. Is there any other members of the council who'd like to speak out or to say something?
Mr. Mayor, I would, and I'm sorry, I thought we were going in order, so I figured that would be the next step after the oath of office. But yes, certainly I'd like to echo those same sentiments that Councilwoman Gallegos. Certainly want to thank Councilmember Holly, Councilmember Derek Robinson, and our past Mayor Medillion for the service and the dedication they've given to this community. Obviously, the people in this community certainly know the work that you put into. So from me and my family, we thank you for everything you've done and the service you put into our community. So thank you again. And again, know that this is not a goodbye, but rather, you know, I'll see you around and we're going to continue to work together to strengthen our community. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
If I may.
Absolutely, sir. Go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to thank all the council parts and new mayor and all those who are going to be at the helm. I wish you all good luck, and knowing it's not an easy challenge with this COVID going around, but also to the staff of City of Madera. Thank you for all your support and help in shaping me as a councilman throughout these years. To Ronaldo, appreciate all your upcoming. To Alicia, you're going to do an awesome job you have so far. And to the rest of the staff, continue doing work. I'm here if you ever have any questions. And to the new staff that's coming on the council, I'm always here to lend a hand or a helping ear if I may. God bless you and God keep you all.
I'd like to say something also. I appreciate the friendship that I have received throughout the years, and I have much love for everybody on the staff and my co-workers, fellow councilmen, and this is not the end. That we should always work together and make the city a better place to live. I thank you, and I wish you luck throughout the years. Thank you.
So I can't be the only one that doesn't say anything. Sorry, Mr. Mayor. But no, thank you to past, present, and future council members. I mean, it's not easy to get up here and do some of the things you do and represent your community like we do. So thank you for all your time. You will be missed, and I just like the other councilman said, we will see you guys around. I think Councilmember Hawley and I, we're still on a lot of commissions together, so can't get rid of them. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, thank you for all your time. Thank you for all your service. Thank you for all your advice. And I'm sure we'll be seeking it out in the future.
Is there anyone else? Then I will take a moment of privilege to express my gratitude to Councilmember Robinson and Councilmember Hawley for all the work and sacrifice and dedication that they've given to our community, not only in the city of Madera, but in our region. And thank you very much for your service. I have become aware now of how much work and sacrifice it takes to be custodians of the city, and our responsibility as governing officials. And I do appreciate everything that you've done. I wish you Godspeed in whatever it is, whatever endeavors that you're going to be doing in the future. Please come back and provide us with your expertise in any way, shape, or form that you want to as we move forward. I'm sure that we can use your experience and your dedication to the city to be able to provide us with guidance. Please pick up the phone at any time and give us a call. Particularly, I'm speaking for myself. Give us a call and provide us with your expertise. I also want to acknowledge Mayor Medellin for his years of service in this way also. So at this time, I think we should move on to the oath of office. I'm not sure who's controlling that part as far as order. Mr. Rodriguez, City Manager.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor. City Clerk Alicia Gonzalez is going to be taking the lead on the oath of office. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. We will begin with Mayor-elect Santos Garcia. I'll ask him to introduce his guest who will be administering the oath.
Thank you very much, and just give us a moment because we're going to be doing the adjustments here. We don't have a studio, but just give me a moment.
Don't move my chair.
As you can see, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. As you can see, I'm in the household of my daughter Esperanza, and she will be accompanying me with the Bible. And then I also have my son Santos Garcia Jr. here with me. I, Santos Garcia,
do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Do solemnly swear that I will defend, that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
And the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies.
and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies,
Foreign and domestic.
foreign and domestic,
That I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States.
and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
The Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the State of California,
That I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservations
or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. Thank you. Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I would like to now call on Councilmember-elect Jose Rodriguez and ask him to introduce his guest.
Thank you, Alicia. And before I do want to say that, you know, obviously COVID has certainly made it interesting in how we conduct our meetings now. So with that, you know, I'd like to introduce my lovely wife, Carmina, and she will be administering the oath of office. So with that, we'll get started. So I'll go ahead and have my wife give us that.
Okay. So please raise your right hand. Say aye.
I,
and your name.
Jose Rodriguez,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And next, I would like to call on Councilwoman-elect Anita Evans and ask her to introduce her guest, please.
Good afternoon, good evening. I would like to introduce my pastor, which will be standing with me, my partner, which will be holding my Bible, and my son, which will be giving the oath. And everyone in the back are my family members. Right here beside. I guess I'm just going to so next thing.
Please raise your right hand.
Okay, then.
Please raise your right hand.
Okay, wait, he's gonna say it. Please forgive me. My partner is going to be reading.
First of all, can we be heard? Can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
Oh, good, great.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just going to quote a scripture out of Romans 8:28. It says that, for we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose.
Amen.
Please raise your right hand.
Okay, well, I got it. Okay.
Say aye and your name, then repeat the oath after me.
I, Anita Evans,
do solemnly swear
that
I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
Repeat it again. that I will bear
that I am allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will and faithfully discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter. Oh, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, son. Thank you. Oh, thank you, son. Thank you.
It is done. Clerk, can we continue? Alicia, can you hear me?
I can hear you. All right, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So now I'd like to call on Councilmember-elect Artemio Villegas, and this evening I will be providing him with his oath of office. Please raise your right hand. Say aye. And
I, Artemio Villegas,
do solemnly swear that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. Congratulations. And now, Mayor, I'll return the meeting to you to item number 4, council to accept nominations for Mayor Pro Tem and make appointment by motion.
Thank you very much for that, Alicia, and congratulations to everyone. So we will take up item D4. Well, item 4 under, let me see. Bear with me a moment. Item number 4, council to accept nominations for Mayor Pro Tem and make appointment by motion. I'll bring that to Alicia, excuse me, Hilda. Is there a need to read that the verbiage on the wording on how that Mayor Pro Tem position is filled, or is it sufficient for us to make a motion and fill the position?
I think it might be helpful for us to just give a summary of what your process is. Every city has a different process, and your agenda says that you're going to nominate somebody, but you actually, as a city, have a specific resolution with very specific procedures, and it has different procedures depending on how long, whether council members have served or have not served. And so at this point, based on that resolution, all the members that have been on the council already have already served as Mayor Pro Tem. So the way your resolution works is that if that is the case, then you go to council members who have not served. And so basically you have your two new council members, Councilmember Evans and Councilmember Villegas. And then there's a next step, since you do have two that were just elected, and the process is that whichever one of those two receive the highest votes is the one that's eligible to be mayor pro tem. And so basically you have one under your procedures, unless he were to decline, under your procedures, you may somebody may proceed to nominate Councilmember Villegas as mayor pro tem.
So having said that, is there anyone on the council at this time who would like to make a nomination for that position of mayor pro tem?
I would like to nominate Councilmember Villegas for mayor pro tem.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to nominate Councilmember Artemio Villegas to the position of mayor pro tem. Is all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Mayor Pro Tem Artemio Villegas.
Thank you.
We will now move on to item D3, filling of council member vacancy in City Council District 5. I believe, Mr. Rodriguez, you have this.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor. Members of the council, Arnoldo Rodriguez, City Manager. City Attorney Hilda Montoya and myself, along with City Clerk Gonzalez, co-wrote the staff report. And so with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to City Attorney Hilda Montoya, who's going to be doing the presentation, and I'll share my screen.
Thank you, City Manager. First, I want to say that it was a pleasure to work with Mayor Medellin and Council Members Holly and Robinson, and I wish them the warmest regards as they move on past their City Council service. And next, I want to congratulate Mayor Garcia and Council Members Villegas and Evans on their new adventures with the City of Madera. Congratulations. So with the item that you just concluded, item D.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome. With the item that you just concluded, item D2, you now have a vacancy on your City Council. And the city and vacancies on City Councils are governed by state law. And Arnoldo, would you please move on to the next slide? So basically, you have two options under state law. You can either call a special election, or you can fill the vacancy by appointment. Now, the tricky part about it is that you have to make that decision before January 31 of 2021. And the reason for that is that state law gives you 60 days to make that decision. And so if the successor council member would be serving now Mayor Garcia's former term as council member, which would be until December of 2022. And the successor also would need to be a resident of the district, District 5, a registered voter, a United citizen, state citizen, 18 years or older. So what is the difference between the two procedures? An election process would be similar to the election that was just held, except it would be very narrow. It would only take place in District 5. And there would be a cost of $15,000 to $20,000. And that is the estimate from the county for conducting that election. A concern sometimes of council members when they're considering this is the time frame. And that is because under the elections code, there are certain time frames when these special elections can be held. And the earliest that you could hold your special election would be November 2 of 2021, which is almost a year. And so that's one reason that sometimes councils pause about having an election. Another reason is the cost. But having said that, many councils do prefer to go ahead and have a special election. Now, under the appointment process, there is no prescribed process under state law for the appointment process. You can, sometimes there's just not outright nominations. A best practice process that we are presenting to you as city manager, city clerk, and city attorney would be an application process. And it would call for you to adopt the resolution that's in your packet, whereby you would decide to do it by appointment, and you would publish the vacancy on the council. There would be an opportunity to residents from District 5 to apply for the position. And then there would be a council meeting, a regular or special meeting to decide who the appointee should be. And the process would be, it has to be an open process. You can't have a closed session. It must be an open session process. And you would, the applicants would make a little 3-minute presentation on why they think they should be the person to get appointed. Members of the council would have an opportunity to ask questions. Members of the public would have an opportunity to speak for or against any of the applicants. And then you would deliberate as a council and determine who your appointee should be. And that again would need to be done before January 31. So again, our recommendation based on state law is to decide today whether you want to pursue filling the vacancy by appointment, in which case you would adopt the resolution that's before you. There is a date there for applications, for when applications would be due that would need to be filled in. Or if you choose to do it by election, then you would say we want to do it by election, and we would bring you back a resolution calling for an election at the next meeting. I have no further comments. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
If there are any questions from my fellow council members of Ms. Montoya regarding this item?
Mayor Santos Garcia, I had a question just to clarify. Hilda, you mentioned that if we went through the appointment process, that would be out in public. Now, when you said deliberate, would that be deliberating also in the open session?
Yeah.
Okay.
So everything is conducted in open session.
Good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Councilwoman Cici Gallegos.
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. My question is to Hilda. If we do an open invitation to our residents to be nominated for this district and we don't feel we had enough applicants, can the council then choose to do a special election even if today we put forth to do nominations?
That could be a possibility. The main thing to remember is that you would need to do it within the 60-day period.
Thank you.
Councilmember Montes.
Question. So if we fail to appoint somebody by the deadline and we don't pass a resolution to have an election, what happens then?
You will be required. State law says that if you don't do either, you still have to have a special election.
Oh, okay, so by default, we'll go to election.
Yes.
Okay. All right, and I guess the next question would be for, is that maybe for Wendy? I mean, who would we have do the recruitment or the advertising for that?
Generally, it's actually the city clerks that conduct the process, and they advertise a position in the newspaper. They post it on the website. There's different procedures. If you have procedures where you send notices to different groups, you would send it to them as well.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to give Wendy more work. My apologies.
sure she appreciates that. I do not see any more hands raised. Alicia, is there anyone from the public who wishes to comment on this item?
No, Mayor, I have not received any public comment.
Councilwoman Gallegos, are you raising your hand?
Yes, just really fast, Alicia and council members and City Manager Rodriguez. So are we looking to advertise right away, and are we bringing it back to council on the 16th? Or are we waiting for the first of the year?
I think you need you need sufficient time to be able to advertise. Okay. So I think that's why we also wanted to bring it to you now, so that if you decided on this process, that there would be sufficient time for you to actually advertise before your council meeting where you make the decision. So it's not going to come back to you at the next meeting. It probably would be coming back to you at the second meeting in January or at a special meeting.
Thank you.
I don't see any more raised hands. I will chime in on myself.
Mayor, I apologize. Councilwoman Evans is raising her hand.
Oh, okay. Councilwoman Evans?
Yes, in the event of the fact that it's $15,000 that the city of Madera would be spending if we were to be having an election, versus the fact that if we did an appointment, and it would be what, for a 2-year term, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so for the 2-year term, I feel that it would behoove us to save the $15,000 to $20,000 and go with an appointment versus spending the $15,000 to $20,000 for the city's money.
Thank you, Councilwoman Evans, and I apologize for not being able to acknowledge you there. Is there anyone else?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I certainly don't disagree with Councilwoman Evans. I think an appointment would be appropriate, only because if the special election ran through November, that would only give that new council member also 1 year in office, I believe. And either way, if we don't have a pool of candidates that would satisfy this council, then by default, as mentioned before, we can certainly go through that special election. But I'll steal a line from our city manager that it won't be for lack of effort, right? City Manager Rodriguez. But we'll certainly go that route, because I think that it would save the residents of Madera money, our taxpayers. But if this council does not see that we have a candidate that's decided on, then we can go with the route that's the default to be a special election.
So Hilda, are you looking for a motion of direction?
We would like, if you're going to, yeah, we would like a motion. If somebody wants the election, make that one's easy. Just make a motion that you want to proceed with an election, and we'd come back with a resolution. If you want to do the appointment, the motion would be to adopt the resolution that's before you, and maybe put in a date. I don't know, Alicia, if you've looked at the dates to ensure that you have sufficient time for publication and noticing before, and then enough time for you and myself to review the applications and put them in a staff report for a council meeting.
We would probably want to look at least the second meeting in January to allow for enough time to publish and put something together.
And what about for the date that the applications must be in for by a specific date?
If we looked at the first meeting in January, that would give it over a month. And then that would give us enough time to make that motion for that appointment, and we would be in that time frame that we would need.
Lisa, that'll give you enough time to publicize, and then the deadline for applications would be What is the first week? The January?
January 4th is the first Monday.
Okay.
But wouldn't you have to put that in our packets by the?
Yeah, it would be by the 31st.
Well,
it cuts it close with the holidays. That's why I'm looking at the calendar a little funny.
We can always hold a special meeting if it came.
Yeah.
I would recommend you have a little more, to give yourself a little more time, and maybe have Alicia fill in that date, kind of walking backwards from the newspaper has rules on when you can publish and all that, making sure there's at least 10 days or so for members of the public to know that it's out there, 15 days, and then publish it, and then from there.
With that, I so move to approve D3 as presented with the dates filled in by our city clerk, which gives us enough amount of time to advertise and get those applications in.
Second.
It has been motioned by Councilwoman CC Gallegos-Foley to approve, and seconded by Councilmember Rodriguez. Could you read that? Alicia, could you read that back again, so just to make sure we have it correct?
Council Member Gallegos made the motion to approve the resolution as presented, and asking City Clerk to fill in the dates, allowing the city enough time to process and bring that back. And it was seconded by Council Member Rodriguez.
Okay. There's probably been motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you very much. There are no administrative reports. We'll move on to item F, council member reports, announcements. We should go again by Councilwoman Gallegos.
Sure, I'll start and I'll be fast because those new electeds want to celebrate tonight. Keep this on the line still, and I just want to just make just a comment about the trail under the railroad bridge and the tracks that connected our two trails together. It looks like it's almost completed. It looks great. The construction company that did that work did an excellent job. I didn't get out and kind of inspect it, but driving through several times on Gateway, I looked in the past and the connection looks great. Another kudos to our Station 58 did open. We will do a groundbreaking as council members and the city when our residents can celebrate it, because it's the station of the people which was built by Measure K Fund. So congratulations to the fire department for opening up Station 58, which has already received, if I'm not mistaken, Chief Watson, at least 2 calls since Monday that I'm aware of. But they're keeping them busy. They're protecting our citizens. So thank you for that. Thank you, Mayor Garcia.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman Gallegos. Now we will have Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor Santos Garcia. I just want to again thank council members, former council members Donald Holly and Derek Robinson again for all their service. Thank you so much. I also wanted to thank our former mayor, Medellin. It was a pleasure working with him as well. And I wanted to bring a suggested future agenda item regarding the passage now of our measure R, which is cannabis. I know that we currently have an ad hoc committee, but one of the members is now out. And hopefully we can bring this back in our next meeting so that we then can add an additional member to that ad hoc committee and get started on that process. It's exciting to see that we passed this measure. Looked like it was a pretty good support. And I want to see that we can start bringing some revenues into the city. The sooner the better, and hope we can get together with that ad hoc committee. So thank you again, Mayor Santos Garcia, and thank you all.
Thank you, Councilmember Rodriguez. Councilmember Montes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank everybody who participated in our democratic process. Again, I know it's not hard. Everybody who participated ran, voted. Thank you very much for caring about our community.
Thank you very much for that. Councilwoman Evans.
Yes.
Would you
I
like
want to thank everyone for my family members that attended. I want to thank the council. I want to thank Jared Robinson for a great race. Salute. And God bless each and every one of you. And we're going to celebrate. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councilwoman Evans. Councilmember Villegas.
I just want to say thank you, Santos. You helped me a lot. I'm new on this, and everybody that helped me, like Pedro and Martalicia, and I was surprised the people respond. The people I was talking to during campaign respond and vote for me. Thank you very much to all the citizens. Oh, Madera. Thank you to you guys. Thank you, Anita.
Thank you, Artemio.
You're welcome.
I want to echo the sentiments of everyone here. You've all been very loving, very caring, and it means a lot to us and the Garcia family from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you very much. To the staff of Madera, thank you very much for your generosity and hard work. Thank you for everything that you do for our community. In particular, I would like to thank Mark for his help in getting me semi-prepared for what the task at hand. Also, Alicia, our city clerk, and well, certainly Arnoldo, your help in doing this. I have faith that we will do everything in our power to move forward and move the city forward and do the best that we can for our residents and our community. So thank you very much. God bless you all. With that, our next, I'm going to be calling adjournment. Our next regular meeting of this city council will be on December the 16th, 2020. So do we need a motion to adjourn? I'm not seeing anybody. So then there will be, I will call adjournment to this meeting. Thank you very much and have a good night.
Good night, everyone.